Hey you guys, it's Dani and welcome back to Deck Bonding. We are back with one of, to me, the most fun things to do when bonding with the deck. And that is getting to know the royal court, if you will. So court cards can sometimes be a little challenging. I know in the past they've done so for me. It's different, right? With the major arcana, we have archetypes, right? These are more like our general, basic hero's journey, different types of, I don't want to say people, but energies that make us up, right? We have all different types of archetypes. However, for our court cards, these are people. Our minors are our experiences. So it's like the full gambit of the majors is like the complexity that is us. The full, scope of the minors is all of our experiences. So where do the court cards come in? Of course, that all depends on the reading, but a lot of times they are people in our lives, energies that we need to embody ourselves. They could kind of take on situational personifications, right? Sometimes you're faced with a situation that might, be reminiscent of the Queen of Wands. It's powerful, it's passionate, it's in your face, it can be a lot, right? And so just the whole of a situation can be personified in this way as well. So because I think these are more of a personification, and also depends on how you read, when you read, what is it within the spread, which can all change. Let's all agree with that, okay? Court cards can be complicated in that way. But what I'm focusing more on in this aspect, which is just bonding with your deck, is about getting to know these characters. Like I said, if you wanted to take the time to go through the archetypes with this, you could. However, those are not your people so much. Sometimes they are. Again, tarot is crazy. We all know this. But this is more geared toward the courts because they are the people and the energies that we need to embody, and the people around us. So we need to get to know these court cards because the way that we interpret them can really change a reading, and it, in my opinion, can change from deck to deck. Just because, a Queen of Swords in one deck feels ruthless and stoic doesn't mean that in another one she's not business oriented and a go-getter. Do you know what I mean? You have to know that deck. You have to know those energies. So I like to go from a base level to a more specific area. I am coming from this in a character development, character charting kind of idea, right? So I was in performing arts from the time I was in high school through college. So for me as an actor, it was getting to know this person that I was becoming, right? So that's kind of where the train of thought comes from, and how I'm seeing it is how would I embody this character? But it doesn't have to be, because it can also come from a writing standpoint. It can come from even a poetic standpoint, where it's what would a poet say to describe this, whatever form of writing that is for you. But also think, if you're a gamer, same idea. D&D, some of these role-playing games, and LARPing, and but even video games, you create your character, you choose who you want to be, right? You're creating a story. And a lot of times, especially in things like D&D and things like that, you create a whole backstory, and it becomes this bigger than life kind of concept because you know your character. But if you don't do any of those things, have you ever people watched? I know what you're thinking. People watching is not character development, but it is. Because if you ever sat with somebody, or even by yourself, and watch someone walk by and, like, assume all kind of stuff about them, like, I bet they have, like, 4 cats. Everything sort of smells like toothpaste. Maybe their car has, like, 20 different water bottles in it. And I bet they collect grocery bags, right? Like, you just sort of form this opinion and, like, try to think of what that person is like as a person, or in a certain context, or watch 2 people having a conversation and you're just like, what are they talking about? And so you start formulating all this in your head. You start coming up with their characters. It's like, it's as simple as that. Character development may sound big and scary, but it's really not. It's just us developing, in this case, based purely on looks and on the basic information that we have, what kind of person this is. So while I can talk about this for hours and hours and hours, because it can just go so deep, I'm going to try to rein myself in for this. And we're going to talk a bit about character sheets, because I feel like that would be the best way to, like, squeeze it all into a video, and to be a cohesive part that you can just kind of take off from here. So I thought that character sheets would be the best way, because you can find some that are really extensive and you can find some that are very, very basic. The way that I base mine are usually dependent upon the deck. So I'll usually do a flip through of the deck. I might pull out my court cards and then kind of look at them and be like, how deep do I want to go? How much do I want to know about these people? And what would be beneficial? Sometimes it's like, I don't want to do this with this deck. And other times I'm like, I want to know if they have indigestion or not. Like, I want to know these characters. So it kind of depends on what you're using this deck for. Personally, if you are doing shadow work with a deck, if you are doing deep personal work with a deck, know your people. Know your people. I'm going to show you where to find some sheets. What we're going to do today is I'm just going to take out some court cards and we're just going to ask ourselves some questions till it feels right, you know? So this doesn't have to be formal. This doesn't have to be crazy. But it's a way for you to decide whether or not you want to dig deeper. So let's go take a look on Pinterest first to get some ideas of what they look like and the kind of things you want to ask. Okay, so we get to Pinterest here, and then what we're going to do is type in character sheet. Should be character creation sheet. Let's see, let's try character creation sheet. I'm pretty sure that's what I typed in before. When I looked for these, character creation sheet. Boom! So we pop these open. It should be just a crap ton of stuff. Okay, so let's check out this character chart, because this is something that, like I said, can get real deep. So this is like character names, nicknames, race, occupation, social class. This one goes full into physical appearance. Now, with a court card, a tarot card, or a court card anyway, we are going to have the appearance there. But maybe it's shrouded, or maybe it's like a vector flat, one basic color image. So if that's the case, you can assign it these things. But again, we mostly know what that is from what we're looking at. But then it goes into character favorites, the background, the family, attitude, personality, traits, those kind of things. What I'm usually most interested in, sometime it might be the relationship, just as kind of a, if I want it, right? Maybe like relationship with mother, or relationship with child, or relationship with sister or friend. Like, how are they with these people? That's a really good place to start too, if you want to know like how they interact with certain people, right? But I really like the idea of some favorites. Now these have like music, their favorite expressions. It just started raining, so hopefully it won't get too loud. Any habits they might have, any hobbies they might have. I love stuff like that. Into the background, they talk about like type of childhood, first memory, education. You can definitely go into those kind of things. So anyway, that's an example of a really in-depth one. Then they have something like this. Super simple. Super simple. We have the character name. We can even just put like, Queen of Swords. General, their age, their height, their hair, their eyes, their personality, the relationships. Again, like how do they react to other people? And the types of people and how they behave when it comes to those. You could see about like if someone comes to them and they're like whining, if they're in need, if they're really confident and strong and firm in their belief system. How do they interact with those kind of people? Do they butt heads? Do they listen? Do they try to understand? Do they try to push back? Like what is it about them in these relationships? And then like some goals and their fears. That's it. Basics, right? It all depends on where you want to go with this. Like you can look at this. This is like Dungeons. I can't talk today. Dungeons and Dragons. So you go into all the things. I even like the idea, like if you want to go into like weapons and stuff, like do they have weapons? Do they own weapons? Are they willing to use those weapons? It's also an idea. Oh, with my membership, the Mystic Fam, if you're a part of that, I am going to write up my basic character sheets, the things that I normally ask when going into a new deck. Kind of a mid-level, nothing too deep, nothing too surface, just kind of somewhere in the middle. I'm going to have that available. But like I said, Pinterest, Google, look up some character sheets, find one that works for you for your particular deck, or create one of your own. Before we go to the desk, I wanted to also talk about Your Tarot Court by Ethany Dawn. Now, I'm going to be honest, I have not finished reading this yet. I kind of touch and go. But I do know that there is a part in the beginning where she does actually talk about asking a couple of questions. Here it is. Right at the beginning, like page 7. She actually does a couple of questions that you can ask your court, kind of an exercise to get to know your court. In the same kind of way, what's your favorite game to play? What do you want to be when you grow up? What pet do you have? So she does talk about some of those questions here. Like I said, I haven't finished reading it, so I'm not really sure how else she goes into it. It's still, like I started it and then I stopped, but it's definitely one that I need to pick back up and reread from the beginning. That way I can get the whole scope of it. But for now, if you do have that book, those are a couple of questions you can dive into as well. So let's go ahead and get to the table so we can take a look at these cards. Okay, so here we are. I chose 3 very different decks to play with this with. So I chose the Revival Art 2nd edition, mostly because I had a full-on, like, multiple page spread full of character development for the first Revival Art. I cannot find it. It got put somewhere between the move from my home office into my shop. So if one day I find this, I would definitely share that with you guys, but I don't know where it's at. So I thought it would be fun to take a look at the 2nd edition of the Revival Art, since I have not done that yet, from this kind of standpoint. I chose Tarot of the Mystical Moments because of this kind of surreal vibe that it has, whereas this one is like portraits, right? This has a dreamlike, surreal environment. And then I chose the Game of Thrones. And I chose this for a very specific purpose. I want to talk about doing something like this and kind of going into the courts when you know the characters already, right? So I thought that would be very interesting to look at the end. So I'm going to push this aside. With these two, we're going to do something a little more informal. I'm just going to kind of go over the ways that you can do this, kind of on the fly, no sheet, but kind of hitting some of those points, okay? So obviously we're not going to do every single one. That would be, number one, probably really obnoxious. And number two, take forever. So we're not going to get dramatic with it, even though I would love to. I'm not going to torture you guys like that. So I'm going to pick a few that are just like stand out to me. Oh, I like him. Oh yeah, this guy. Okay, short list. Let's see who I want to pick from here. Let's see the kind of spread we have. We have a bunch of kings. Page 9. Okay, so he makes me laugh the way that his face is. Like, I just want to laugh at him. Okay. Let's do these three. Okay. So with this, I want to just kind of free flow and just talk about what I see with these characters. Maybe ask a couple of questions, maybe dig deeper. I think with this one, we might do something a little more concrete on the, like, that would be on a character development sheet, like favorites or something. And then, again, we're going to go over Game of Thrones in a kind of separate way and kind of talking it through that way. So with this one, let's just kind of talk through. I also want to grab the guidebooks just in case, because sometimes reading from the guidebook is a place to start. Like, obviously, you can just look at these, know what they are, as in, like, we have wands and coins here. So earth suit, fire suit, we have a basic idea of that. Knights usually bring messages. Pages are usually kind of in the learning stages, a younger place. Kings are usually more set and successful in wherever they are. So we kind of have those ideas going into it. So I'm just going to pick one. I'm going to pick the center. I'm going to pick the page of coins, and we're going to read what they said. Even if it's just keywords for, you know, this guidebook doesn't go really in depth. So we're just going to get a surface level anyway, which is great. So Pentacles page. Okay. This is the name of it, of the portrait. I can't say that. Italian mandolin? IDK. But here are the keywords for this. Kindness, new ideas, opinions, scholar, luxury, rebellious, bad news. Okay, so we got like scholar. I like that for a page of coins. I usually think of someone that's learning, which this is a great representation of that to me. In that same vein, I can't help but think of Ebenezer Scrooge. So come along with me. In A Christmas Carol, we always get the image of Scrooge as a young boy being left at the school during Christmas, you know, whatever. But he is hyper-focused on his studies. So this makes me think, okay, education-wise, where is this page of coins? Even though he looks like he may be in middle school, I'm thinking he's excelled. So he is far past where he should be. So maybe like thinking, you know, our schooling, like, you know, elementary, middle school, high school, and then college. I feel like he has surpassed that middle school space and is going into the upper area of like the high school, like right before college, or maybe an apprenticeship. Like, he is excelling in what he's doing because he is so hyper focused. It's almost like being too grounded in a way, this page of coins. So what would that mean when this would come up in a reading? If I think of him like this, if I think of his education, I think about maybe where is his mental state. So in thinking of Ebenezer Scrooge, sometimes he is, you know, while he is very good at his studies, there is a sadness behind it where he doesn't feel part of another world, right? All these other boys that are around him, or, you know, playing and going home for Christmas and having these other kind of interactions where he's not going on adventures. He is very much nose to the grindstone, right? So that kind of tells me that maybe he needs to let loose a little bit. While it's good to study, he needs to also be experiencing. He can't learn everything from a book. Think Hermione in Harry Potter, right? You know, books and cleverness can only get you so far if you don't put those things into action. So when I would pull this page of coins out, or I would see him in a reading, my first thought would be Ebenezer and what part of his life this person may be talking to. Is it a memory of maybe when you, I don't know, kind of had your stuff together? Or is it someone coming in who's in this space, there to teach you and bring you this idea of, you know, buttoning down and getting to your studies and really learning this? Or someone coming in who's got a problem with this and you need to kind of take them out of that space as best as you can, make them look around and have an adventure with you while still remaining grounded. So that's kind of how I would kind of interpret this, just in a quick level, by asking a couple of questions, seeing what it reminds me of. So let's move on to, okay, I can't, y'all. I gotta talk about this guy. Look at this. Look at this eye. Like, what is this? Oh my God, I don't know. It just like caught me. It's like hilarious. So let's take a look at this Knight of Wands. Okay, I'm gonna roast him a bit because when I see him, I see ridiculousness. Like, no lie, that's what I'm seeing. So in being the Knight of Wands, let's think about, you know, bringing these messages, kind of embodying something. This guy, So first off, look at all this silk he's got. He is very much dressed to the nines. Like, I can imagine him. He takes a lot of time in the mirror in the morning, right? Like, you're supposed to be this knight, you're carrying messages, you have a job to do, but he's not really worried about that. He's here for the sexiness of it all. Right? Like, his kind of, I guess you would call it maybe like a vice, or his, like, you know, sin, if you will, the 7 deadly sins. Like, what that goes along with him is pride. And you can see that in the wands. There is a passion for that. There is a creativity, but he's taking it all upon himself. It is all about him, right? He's got that fire about his own presence and appearance, right? So he comes in, so he's prancing around like a peacock instead of doing what he's supposed to do. Or the messages that he's bringing is all pomp and circumstance, but there's not a lot of weight behind it, right? What about his sense of humor? I don't think he would have one, really. Or if he would, it would be very sarcastic and almost like mean towards other people. But when anyone would make fun of him, anyone would talk about him or make, you know, little jokes about him, he would not find anything funny. Everything is offensive. He can't take a joke well, right? He cannot take a joke well. However, he may be really good at, you know, his strong point might be maybe putting intimidation to the forefront, like maybe intimidating the people around him to get his way through. Again, thinking about like literally like knights on a battlefield. They may see him coming and see all these medals and think, oh my God, this guy knows what he's doing. He's in here for a purpose. And people might kind of stand aside or allow him through, right? So that may be his strong point, but he's a lot of fluff. He's a lot of hot air, right? So that's kind of what I see when I see these. Like, sometimes it's just like a funny thing. So when I see this guy coming in, if I would pull this, I would immediately say, you have somebody coming in, strutting and putting on a great show, but there might not be a lot of substance to that. Will they get you moving? Will they, you know, have this passion for life? Yes. But be careful, right? Like, just because it seems nice and flashy doesn't mean that they hold that kind of morals underneath it, or that they have anything to back up what they're showing, right? So maybe pay attention to that. So that's how I would see this knight. But this King of Coins, tell me it does not look like he smells something bad. Like, you have walked into the room and he's like, ooh, hello. very low before him. So he may have, as the king of coins, he usually has a lot of wealth, upper crust, upper class. So when you come to society and society life, where would he be? At the top. He is an aristocrat. He thinks his shit don't stink. Okay? And yours obviously does. Somebody else's presence might offend his high class sensibility, right? He may be in that area where it's hard, he almost seems untouchable, right? Like he's gained all this wealth, but sometimes he is not going to be willing to share what he knows. However, I think down here with this greenery that's around his hand, it almost looks maybe like a laurel, like a victory, right? And I mean, he's very embellished. So he's gone through some stuff. And this kind of reminds me of a 4-leaf clover, like just at a first glance. So immediately I would think for him, like if you approach him the right way, this kind of ew sneer becomes a, look at what I have here in my hand. This could all be yours, right? So if you approach him correctly, if you come to him correctly, he may be willing to get you where you need to be. He may be willing to share his secrets. He is set. He has no worry, right? In some ways, it might feel like the nouveau riche, where he's gotten himself here and he thinks he's better than everybody else. But it could also be on the flip side. Again, where you have like, look at all this, I can help, could be the flip side of like, oh no, I was born into this. I understand how it happens. I've worked my whole life to keep what I have. Come and let me teach you, right? Well, it can be two sides of each coin. That's the best part about this character development. We all have more than one side. We can be straight up jerks one day, or to some people, and then we could be the most helpful, generous person to another. So treat your characters that way. He may have this look immediately like, ew, but if you look closer, maybe it's just about the way you approach him. He's willing to share and teach you all of this to get all this opulence if you approach him the right way. So maybe there's two sides to his coin depending upon who you are. So then you would ask about these relationships. Is it someone who comes in really cocky? I don't think he would deal with that very well. He would think that you're trying to take from him, right? But if you approach him almost as like the page of coins, with respect and with a sense of, like picking his brain, right? A sense of him being a wise person and treating him as such, you might get further with him. So those would be just kind of basic ways to sit with your cards, and without doing a whole sheet, just like figure out what you know when you sit with these cards, what you want to know. Where would they be on a base level? But from here, you can literally sit with your character sheet. I love like looking at this and being like, I don't know, what would his favorite color be? I think maybe like a deep purple because he thinks it's pretty opulent, right? So he would have maybe a jacket made of like this purple velvet that just makes him feel perfection, right? He likes to do his hair every morning. Like he will spend 2 hours doing his hair. Appearance is part of his personality speaking. Like part of how he shows off his personality is making sure that he is put together at all points. He wants to be viewed that way. So he's gonna plop them curls. He's gonna wear curlers to bed, honey. This is like Gilderoy Lockhart, only toned down, right? Harry Potter reference for us nerds. Like, he is about glitz and glamour. He wants to look the part, but he is kind of toned down a bit. Like, oh, this looks natural to me, right? So again, you can sit with these and go as deep as you want. But that's kind of how I do an initial look through. I will read sometimes the guidebook and I will expand upon it. I will see something and just kind of roast it and just go with my gut feeling. And then I'll kind of evaluate and ask questions about other ones. So you can go as deep or as surface level as you want, depending upon what you want to know about this deck. And just for funsies, sometimes just doing this is fun. So let's go ahead and go to the mystical moments. So I want to pick a few, and I want to do almost like a rapid fire favorites to kind of do with these. That can also be kind of fun. I love him. Okay, we're going to do that. So let's do these. We have a King of Cups, a Queen of Pentacles, and a Page of Swords. Let me shift these lights so we don't have glares. Okay. So let's do just some sort of rapid fire favorites. So let's see, favorites. Maybe what's their favorite environment? Okay. So let's go into that, kind of their ambiance. Where would they have their house or their kingdom? So obviously our King of Cups is on the sea, right? I'm thinking not some kind of glamorous beach town. I'm talking old beat up sea castle. I'm thinking the Greyjoys, only not as dingy, from Game of Thrones. I'm thinking almost what's the city that they go into? Is that in Lord of the Rings? With the two pointing figures? Am I getting my fandoms mixed up? Regardless, I'm thinking old castle by the sea. It is beaten by the weather, but still has its basic luxuries. But no big opulent kind of thing. There's not gilded walls. There's no, golden weaved rugs in there. This is a big burning fireplace, right? Leather chairs and windows that open to the sea, right? They want to look at the horizon. They want to see what's coming to them at all points in time. The salt air just kind of hangs there, a little closed up, maybe a little cold, right? Again, think having those fires lit at all points of the year, because it never quite gets the chill out of the salt air, right? When you stand on, the battlements, the walls of this castle, there's a constant breeze blowing. It's never quite sunny enough. It's a gloomy gray space, but that's where they feel grounded by the sea, if you will. I feel that for the environment of this king in particular. Likes to spend more time on a ship than in the castle. So for the Queen of Pentacles, I would say, look at all this greenery. I'm thinking do you know in fantasy worlds how sometimes you have to go through shrubbery or a hidden space in a bush, and when you walk in there's a clearing that opens up? Whereas they want to see out and see and be outside more than inside. I feel for her, she doesn't mind a canopy of leaves around her. She doesn't mind being surrounded in a smaller space. She doesn't need to see far away. She wants an intimate setting. All of this greenery kind of set around her. She wants a homey feel where it's warm, but it smells like the earth. It smells like the forest at all points in time. It's just very much welcome to my garden. You'll never really find her inside. You will always find her in, nature, in her open space. That's kind of how I feel for her favorite environment. This Page of Swords, oh my goodness. I see a college campus being their favorite space. Even though this is the swords, this cap and gown, standing on all this knowledge, give him a library with huge windows, give him the smell of old books, give him papers to write and ink bottles and the whole environment of that. I think that's where he finds himself best, because when he's not there, I feel like he's got his head in a book and he is kind of off on his own faraway land, right? So that's kind of their environments that I feel. So let's talk about maybe their favorite movies. So King of Cups, high sea adventure. I'm thinking like pirates, something with pirates. Maybe we'll just go with the first Pirates of the Caribbean, right? Getting swept away on the sea. Oh no, was it the second one that he went and met Davy Jones? So the second one, look at those tentacles. This is a Davy Jones kind of thing. Also books. Let's go with books. Of course, something like Moby Dick. Something with adventure on the high sea. Being at ease with this rolling sea, right? So our Queen of Pentacles, what would I think for her movie? I would think Robin Hood. Like OG Kevin Costner, Prince of Thieves, Robin Hood. Like the concept of, nurturing a whole society, of this beautiful love story, of good versus evil, of kind of going out into the world and creating your own way and giving back. I think that the Queen of Pentacles would love that. She would love not only the story, but the environment and the forest that it is set in, right? Page of Swords. Maybe he would I think he would enjoy him some TED Talks, right? He wants to know. He wants to learn. He's ready to get in it. I think he would enjoy some TED Talks. That would be his total jam. As for books, like the Queen of Pentacles, I could see her enjoying fantasy, right? I could see her enjoying something like Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit that kind of takes you to this other place. I think she might also enjoy some practical stuff, like some nonfiction about maybe herbs and plants, about gardens and how to keep them up and how to grow them. I think she'd be very knowledgeable in that. So maybe some nonfiction thrown in here. Whereas like the King, we're all adventure here. And the Page of Swords, aside from his like TED Talks and documentaries, I feel like he would be more of a textbook kind of guy. He's ready to dive into anything. Oh, you should learn how to fix this watch. Boo, I'm gonna read 12 books about watch mechanisms, and I'm about to do this thing. Like, he's not afraid of it. He's gonna learn it, he's gonna do it, he's gonna be it. He is ready and he is gung-ho, right? So, last thing, let's talk about maybe their favorite foods, because I love that. Favorite foods. King of Cups. Oh, I think she would just like, honestly, I'm thinking of like that really straight, like anything from the sea. Like, she's gonna eat some squid and octopus. She's gonna go, sashimi kind of vibes, like anything and everything from the sea. And like, not always like super cooked. Like, I don't know, there's a rawness and a realness about it. Like, she's just not scared of things like that. She's not scared to try anything. There is an adventure within, and I feel like that comes from being, in talking of Queen of Cups, right? The King of Cups, of being confident in who you are. I mean, like, I'm not going to shy away from this. This is who I am, and I'm going to teach you how to be strong and comfortable in all of your emotions, things that feel uncomfortable, things that feel fantastic, right? That's how it's going to kind of play out. Whereas like Queen of Pentacles, okay, so in a normal Queen of Pentacles, I usually think spaghetti, right? Our RWS Queen of Pentacles, I'm like, she's gonna feed you some spaghetti, some really good wine, you're gonna have a good chat. Like, that's how I think of her. But this Queen of Pentacles, it is something herb filled or something direct from her garden. I'm thinking like, having a filet mignon with like herbed potatoes with fresh, herbs and spices from her garden. I'm thinking something a little more fancy, whereas like this might be a little more cold. She's gonna have something piping hot, something like a cordon bleu, right? Like chicken with herbe de Provence all over it. Like she's gonna have those kind of like rich, herby spices in there. Like it's just gonna be really savory foods. This Page of Swords, I feel like is not super concerned with food. I think he would be just as happy with like cold pizza as he would with like, I don't know, McDonald's or like a muffin from a coffee shop, right? I don't think he puts a whole, like, he's not really a foodie. I feel like he's more concerned with other things. Sometimes food can be an annoyance. It's just kind of whatever's around. So maybe his favorite food is whatever's easiest to get, right? So that's how you can also play with this. Just see what their favorites would be. So when this comes up, you think of like, oh, maybe she'd really like fantasy books. So what does that tell me? The kind of person that she is, and things of that nature. Just keep going with these favorites, like what's their favorite hobby? What's their favorite way to socialize? What's their, I don't know, whatever. Favorite song, favorite color. Come up with all these things. Take the time. Just do a favorites. Because again, you will learn more about what it feels like. And for me, that's my personal take on tarot in general, is what it feels like to me, right? I work on energy and feelings and atmosphere and setting. So this really works with me because when I see it, this is what I feel when I look at this. I set my atmosphere, I step into this world, and that's just a better way to know your deck, is like, oh, I've already stepped into his world. I know what he's doing, right? He's got big dreams. Look at all this kind of coming down. He loves to learn, and he's not afraid to jump right in and dive right in and do everything he needs to do. Like, he's like, I don't need to eat, I don't need to sleep. I'm doing this. I'm getting it done because I want more and more and more and more. He's got that kind of hunger for knowledge. Like, you put this down, you're going to know these characters, right? And I think that can really aid in when they show up in readings, because we know the type of people, right? Or we know the situations a little better. So now let's kind of talk about when you know the characters already. Or maybe if you don't, you have a space to learn them, right? I kind of want to talk about, I think I want to talk about these two, because it's one that I loved immediately and one that I was like, oh man. So in this Game of Thrones, I know Game of Thrones. I watched all the movies, all the show, I read the books. I know these characters, right? So on the offset, I know about these, That's why fandom decks can be so fun, because we know them. Our Harry Potters, our Star Wars, our Labyrinth that just came out, all these Disney villains that just came out. Alice in Wonderland, I know they're coming out with a new one, but we have so many different interpretations of Alice right now. Lord of the Rings, they have Supernatural, the list goes on and on and on, right? So having this adds another layer to character development, because we know these characters, right? If you choose to get a fandom deck, you don't always, but a lot of times or it's easy to go find out about who these characters are at heart. So in doing that, like, what would you find? Like, why would you need to dive any deeper? You don't have to, obviously, any of this. But for me, it's figuring out why they chose and what that means to you. How do you connect where these characters are? I saw the Queen of Swords as Cersei, and I was like, this is it. I was sold. I was sold because it was a Game of Thrones deck immediately. But like, when I saw this, I was like, oh, they get it. Oh, they get it on a big level. because this immediately spoke to me. Cersei as the Queen of Swords was everything, because she can be cold and callous, but she is calculated. She listens. She is a smart woman who can get what she wants. There's another side to her, right? How can I soften this Queen of Swords? She's a loving mother. She will do anything, including die for her children or kill for her children, right? She has loyalty for her family. There are so many different things that when I see her and I think of the keywords for the Queen of Swords, I see how they mesh immediately. So this was easy for me to see her and know who she is, what she's like, what she's about in a reading. But one of my favorite cards is the Queen of Cups. And when I saw Sansa, I was like, I don't like it. Just because everything about Sansa that I felt at the time was like, you are a dumb, dumb little girl. But the more I sat with this and the more I thought about it and the more I dove into her character and I searched for the Queen of Cups, I started to understand. Part of that comes if you have a good guidebook. Some of that may come from this. Let me see where the cups is. Cups. Look, you can see I wrote notes in this. I'm such a nerd, but I love it. Okay, so in your Queen of Cups, you're thinking sensitivity, compassion, emotional intelligence. I didn't really feel like Sansa had emotional intelligence, but it was... maybe that was the reversed, right? Where sometimes she thought too much with her emotions and they were kind of, what's the word? Not spontaneous. Almost reckless, I guess. Like, you know, she went with her gut, or she went with her not even her gut, her immediate emotion, and that's not always the wisest decision. And I think she had to settle in to gain that emotional intelligence. Like, everything she threw herself into with her emotions kind of got her in deeper, or in a place where she was kind of in trouble. So then she had to like grow and learn from there. So I thought hers was a very interesting space to be in. So here's what it says in here. So we're talking here about a reflective moment for Sansa Stark before the approach of Marjorie Tyrell at the Godswood in King's Landing. So this is kind of when she didn't know where she was going to be, what she was going to be doing, right? It says, upright as a person, this queen is a sensitive woman of high emotional intelligence who nurtures her relationships. She's often symbolized as the ideal friend or romantic partner. Applied to a situation, the card shows we're in touch with your emotions and that it's safe to follow your heart and to explore your creative potential. You'll also receive the support you need just now. When reversed, this queen thrives on drama and attention, Sansa, and enjoys fueling others' emotional discord, with Arya. She may appear giving, but her company is draining. Everyone. No. Applied to a situation, she shows that your feelings may not be reciprocated. So there was a lot to kind of take in there, and a lot that I was like, no. But then I started really thinking about her as a character and where and how she would fit as this Queen of Cups. And I feel like while she is not... I don't really feel like she ever really reached that pinnacle, though at the end she was very strong. But I saw her more at the end of the series as almost like a Queen of Wands versus a Queen of Cups, because she matured to that level where she was driven then by honor and passion, versus her emotional intelligence, right? But as a Queen of Cups, in this instance, how did I justify? How did I see it for myself? And that was just her potential to get to the Queen of Cups. What do you have to go through? Where do you have to learn? Where do you have to make mistakes? So this Queen of Cups, for me now, when I see it, it means that it's someone who has tried to live their honest self, who has really just felt everything so deeply and so purely that sometimes it gets them into bad situations, right? But all in all, they're true to themselves. They look for the good in others. They do what they can for everyone. So I had to find her character in here. And so that's where that development of her as the Queen of Cups came from me. I had to really look at what Sansa meant to me and how I could see her as this. Where could I fit her in there? And so while it took some time, I had to really kind of dive into her character, her actions, her thought process to find her here. So that really made me have a deeper understanding and a deeper appreciation for a deck that has characters already that we know. So that is kind of how I based this. So I hope that all of this has helped and that you can see that it can be, you know, fun and exciting and a way to bond with your deck. And then when you get into stuff like full character sheets, it can be a whole process. You can really do some intense deep diving into a deck and into yourself and your own psyche by really creating these characters of the court. So I hope that this really gave some, fun exercises and maybe even food for thought. So thanks so much for watching, you guys. I hope that you enjoyed this crazy journey on getting to know our court cards in our bonding series. If you have any comments, any questions, if you're doing this, if you want to do this, if you go ahead and try it, let us know how you do. Let us know some of your favorite questions to ask. Put those all in the comments below. I can't wait to hear from you guys. As always, if you are looking for my information, any of the information on what I've showed you guys today, if it's available, I'm going to put it down in the description box below, as well as how to join our Mystic Fam membership, Instagram, Etsy, how to book a reading, 3 Fat Readers, all the different things, all the links are all down below, and I hope that we see each other very soon. I'm sending all my love. Mwah! Have fun. Later, Gators!